4-hour power storytelling hour. It is about, yes, storytelling. And I welcome you, as well as on our podcast, to just sit back and relax as we entertain this evening and just do what it is that we do. I want to also take a moment to say thank you to the Hannah Center, that's where we're located here in their beautiful black theater box at 4750 Woodward Avenue, right in the Midtown Detroit. You guys go out there to www.hannahcenter, and just take a look at this.org. They've got so many things that you can take advantage of here, right here in Midtown, as I said a moment ago. You won't be sorry that you did. Wow. We're marching in to the madness of Women's Month. Women's Month indeed, and we need to just celebrate as we always do different things. We've got some powerful speakers this evening, 3 as a matter of fact, to celebrate with us today. Before we get started with our presentations, I'd like to put your attention to one other matter, which is our sponsors. Yes, we have a sponsor for this episode, and as a matter of fact, here's the sponsorship. Check this out. This episode is sponsored by Pam Jones, owner of Custom Designs by Jonesy, LLC, content and digital creator for all occasions. Calling all markers, crafters, please visit A Feeling of Special on etsy.com. And that's for all your digital needs, particularly if you're looking for that special product for the upcoming holidays or special events. Then let Custom Designs by Jonesy customize your t-shirts, hot, cold tumblers, bookmarks, coasters, banners, journals, and much, much more. For additional information, contact Pam at designsbyjonesy@gmail.com or at 313-673-2738. Be sure now to use code DABS, that's DABS, for a 10% discount on all custom orders paid in full by April 1st, 2023. Once again, use code DABS for a 10% discount on all custom orders paid in full by April 1st, 2023. I want to say thank you now. Please, as you heard, our sponsor, Custom Designs by Jonesy, LLC. You can't go wrong. She is definitely on point. They are splendid. Check them out. Get your 10% discount. DABS, DABS, accordingly. We're going to keep it moving with our first topic. That's right. Love the name. Love the color. Leah Rich. Yeah, I say more because she is rich indeed. Leah Rich. Leah Rich, a retired Detroit Public Schools teacher, first became interested in the art of storytelling while working on her teaching certificate. Mesmerized that storytelling has the ability to not only teach life lessons, but to stimulate the imagination and solve problems, so much so, when she retired, her desire to learn the art of storytelling was rekindled, and it is her hope and desire that the stories she will share have a significant impact in someone's life.
Good evening, audience. The story that I am going to share with you is called Speak Up, Speak Out, and Dare to Be Heard. I am so excited. This is the month of March, Women's History Month. It is the month that we celebrate the many contributions that women have made throughout time. We acknowledge their worth, their value. We also look at their accomplishments and their achievements. And you may wonder, how how did all of this get started? Well, it began before you were born. It began before I was born. It even began before our parents were born. In Seneca Falls, New York, in 1948, a women's rights convention was convened, and this is considered the birthplace of women's rights. 300 men and women, including Lucretia Mott and Frederick Douglass, both abolitionists fighting for the freedom of people, gathered together. And this event was spearheaded by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And she came up with a document that was known as the Declaration of Sentiments. And this document focused in on 5 areas that were of particular concern to women. They were the areas of education, educational opportunities or the lack thereof, voting rights, divorce reforms, and in addition to that, labor issues, as well as property rights. Did I say property rights? Well, in actuality, that really happened many years ago, centuries ago. No. Millennials ago. Back to biblical times. Back to the days of Moses. Back to the days of the children of Israel when they were camped in the plains of Moab by the Jordan River across from Jericho, where they could look over and spy the land that God had promised them. It was at this time that Moses commanded Eleazar, the priest, to take a census. And in that census would be counted men 20 years and older according to their fathers' households. Now, when this numbering was going on, there were 5 young women who were fatherless and unmarried. And they stood and they watched this happen. They were the daughters of Zelophehad. Their names were Hoglah, Mahlah, Milcah, Tirzah, and Noah. And they became alarmed because they realized that as the census were being taken and the men were counted, because their father had died and he left no sons, they would not be counted in the inheritance and therefore apportioned land on the other side of the Jordan. So they began to hug one another, to encourage one another, because they were fearful. They were fearful of being destitute. They were fearful of being homeless. They were fearful of being disinherited. So what they decided is that they had to go and present their case to Moses. So they gathered up the strength. They gathered up the courage. And even though they were fearful, knees shaking, eyes twitching, they walked in one single line to the court of the tabernacle, to the door of the court of the tabernacle. And they walked right to the front. And in the very front stood Moses, along with the priest, Eleazar, and the princes, as well as the congregation. And they looked at the eyes of the men that were looking at them. And they weren't exactly friendly eyes. And then they could hear whispers. Who do they think they are approaching Moses? And then they heard snickers. Don't they know that women are supposed to be seen and not heard? But Hoglah drew deep breath, and she looked Moses straight in the eyes, and she spoke up. She spoke out because she intended to make a difference. So she just turned off those voices that she heard, and she presented her case to Moses. Mr. Moses, my father, Zelophehad, died in the wilderness, and he had no son. Then she asked a question. Why should my father's name be forgotten? Because he had no sons. And then they made a petition. They said, give me an inheritance among his brothers. And Moses thought about it. And he did what he always did when he didn't know what to do and when he didn't know the answer. He went to God. And he inquired of God on how to handle their petition. And God said to him, the daughters of Zelophehad speak right. And this is what you are to do, Moses. You are to tell the children of Israel that if a man dies and has no sons, then the inheritance passes on to the daughter. Now the daughters were delighted because they knew that land meant security, land meant wealth, and land meant continuity of their father's name. So they were delighted. And they went back in anticipation to the day when they would be able to inherit the land. Now once again, these women, despite the status quo, they spoke up. They spoke out. And they were heard. And because of that, the laws of inheritance was changed and allowed them to receive land as well as other women who were in their predicament to receive land. Now, you may remember that Moses died in the wilderness before the children of Israel conquered the land of Canaan. But Joshua took his place. So when the battle had been fought and the land had been won, then, as it said in Numbers 26, verses 15 and 52 and 53, the Lord had already commanded Moses that the land was to be divided among the houses that were listed on that census. And so they went to Joshua and they said, the Lord told Moses that he had to give us the land. And so Joshua did exactly that. He gave them the land. Now, you may wonder how the story ended. Yes, they got the land, and then in Numbers 36, verse 11, these 5 daughters are all married. They married their father's brother's son. And we can only assume that they lived happily ever after. But because they were bold enough, because they were courageous enough, because they spoke up, because they spoke out, things changed for many women. And so we as women must always seek opportunity to speak up, to speak out, dare to be heard, because we don't know the kinds of positive impacts we can have on the lives of other women. My second story is entitled, a contrast, stark contrast. Ladies and gentlemen, Northwest Airlines welcomes you to the city of San Francisco. The local time is now 12:25. Those words were music to my ears. This was my first time visiting San Francisco, and I just couldn't wait to take off my seatbelt, get out of my seat, and meet my sister at the gate. We have planned many activities as far as the places we would visit and the things that we would do. So we went home that evening, we relaxed and rested, and in the morning we were ready to start our adventure. The first day we drove to San Francisco, and we decided to visit Lombard Street. Now, Lombard Street is known as the crookedest street in the world. And it's an incline, and it zigs and it zags, and there are 8 sharp turns. As we climb strenuously up the hill, we were mesmerized by the beauty of the city that we could see and the flowers that adorned either side of this street. And by the time we got up, we were able to just look around and enjoy the city view. And we decided to go down the hill, descend, and we went to see the cable cars, and we were able to see why San Francisco is called the city on 50 hills. And we enjoyed the Victorian houses, very picturesque scenery. And after that, we went home and rested. And day 2 of our visit, we decided to take the bus. And we took the bus to Fisherman's Wharf, and more specifically, Pier 39, where we could see the Golden Gate Bridge in the distance. We could see Alcatraz Island. We could see the Bay Bridge. And there were so many things to do on Pier 39. We ate, and we listened to the different entertainment, and we visited the museum. And after that, we were exhausted, and we went home. The 3rd day, we decided to take the ferry across the Larkspur ferry to the Golden Gate Terminal. And it was here that I saw a stark contrast. On our way over, we passed a dingy, scary-looking, ominous-looking facility. It had bars on the window. The fence was about 14 feet high with barbed wires. There were towers, and there were men in uniform with rifles, just looking down on the men in the yard. Some of the men were playing pickup basketball, others were just socializing. Some of them had their back against the fence, as if to close out the people that were on the ferry. They just didn't want to see them because they knew that they were confined to this place. And the name of that place, it says State of California San Quentin Prison. And it was founded in 1852. And I just had to think. I am looking at the men in the yard and I'm thinking, some of them did the crime, so they've got to do the time. And eventually they'll be released. Then I thought about a second group, very small group, who didn't do the crime, but they're doing the time because they were wrongfully convicted because of ineffective counsel, or because they did not have an alibi, or because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then the third group, those people who were the men that were in the prison, who would only be released through a backdoor pardon. And by backdoor pardon, I mean their sentence of life imprisonment catches up with them, and they're taken out in a body bag. And I thought, how ironic. These men are so close to what's known as the Port of San Francisco, where the Golden Gate Bridge lies to the north 12 miles, where you have the biggest town in North America, where the fortune cookie was invented. There's so many activities and things to do, and there's so many unique opportunities in this city. But because these men, some of them made the wrong choice, and because some of them were wrongfully convicted, they don't have an opportunity to take part in the excitement, the entertainment, and the things that go on in that city. But yet and still, each day, they watch people in the ferry, dressed in their business attire, going to six-figure jobs, and they watch people on the ferry who are tourists going to explore the city, but yet and still, they're unable to participate in this. And then I thought about the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Who knows what impact it would have had if those men had more opportunities when they were younger. If they had opportunities for recreational centers, recreational purposes, if they had opportunity to explore places, if they had opportunities for better education, who knows how their life may have been impacted. And instead of being incarcerated, they might be on the other side, able to make valuable contributions to society. So what does that say for me? What does that say for you? That, again, it takes a village to raise a child. And even though we may not have direct contact with the children, we can still make a difference through prayer. We can make a difference through supporting organizations that work with children to turn their situations around, so that they won't be faced with that stark contrast of seeing them, others live their life to the fullest, but here they are, stuck on an island, and things are dictated to them as to when to get up, when to go to sleep, and some of them have absolutely no opportunity to change their life for the better. A stark contrast right in the midst of the day.
Right in the midst. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes. Oh my gosh. You know, oftentimes I thought about what you have shared, and how did you come up with that information about the contracts?
First of all, I did research.
Mm-hmm.
I did research in terms of, and then not only research, but it's just the experience that I saw when I would visit San Francisco. I've been there about 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my sister and I would
Mhm.
catch the ferry over,
Mhm.
and you would be able to see the men in the exercise yard. You see them right out there as you are passing, going to the port of San Francisco. So And then on top of that, when I saw that, it just caused me to just think and do research. Yes.
Thank you for sharing. You know, I understand that you, I can say, was a former teacher.
Retired DPS.
And at some point in time, you became interested in becoming a storyteller. How did that come about?
Well, I had a college professor, Dr. Roney, and Dr. Roney would always tell stories. And I just loved it. Yeah, I was able to relax when I heard the stories. So then I started going to storytelling festivals. And then I was shared stories with my students, and I saw the effect it had on them. And so, you know, I was too busy initially, but when I retired, I said, this is something I've got to get into. Yes.
I'm so glad that you did decide to follow your dream on that.
Yes.
Just like what you spoke about in the Bible. Even before when we suffered,
Yes.
way back then,
Yes.
second class.
Yes.
Okay? So thank you for bringing that to our attention as well. And we're so glad that you followed your dream as well. I'm a part of that. And speaking of being a part of that, how can anyone reach out to you if they want to tell us what they're doing?
Well, they can contact me by email. My email address is Leah, Leah, _Rich, RICH, at msn.com.
All right, there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us on today. We look forward to when you return the next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. I just love her last name because we are rich with this, rich with that. So much riches coming at the bottom. You know, women's suffrage, there's a whole lot into that. But I'm so grateful that we have a platform now. We can thank each other, to uplift each other. Because there's so much that has been accomplished by not giving up, persevering as a woman. And so also when you think about those times, can you imagine if we were still stuck without being able to have a voice? It is important that everyone has a voice, no matter what the creed, color, gender, a voice. However, this one is our one. I want to thank Helen Reddy. She said it best years ago. I am woman, hear me roar. I am strong. We are invincible. We are woman, hear us roar. Y'all remember that song? Maybe not, but breakfast. Helen Reddy. She put the game out there for us, and we really appreciate her and so many others that did that for us. This particular episode has been brought to you by, for my podcast listeners, it is Customs Designed by Jonesy. And in fact, you guys, as the commercial said it earlier, if you'll take a look at some of the information on our banners, Customs Designed our logo. That's a total logo for us after maybe about, 15 years, 20 years. But she actually did that for us. And it is wonderful. She does a lot of different things. Logos, custom designs on t-shirts. You name it, bookmarks. Even our 30th anniversary logo that we have that's going to be splashed in the center. Yeah, that's custom design. So please, go out there, go to the website, take a look, and make a booking. It's 10% off all of your custom designs. That's paid in full before April 1st, 2023. I want to take a moment also to say that if you're interested in becoming a member or want to tell your story, go to our website. Well, so much posted out there. You'll be able to find out what's going on for the upcoming event, and you'll get the reels back on some of the former events as well. That's that. Detroit Association. Next, have our next powerful speaker. Her last name is Cody. So what I'm gonna say is, I bring her on is we, Michelle Ross, Patty.
Michelle Ross Perry is a native Detroiter, and as an elementary student, she always enjoyed storytellers who would come out to read to the neighborhood children at the Oakland Public Library. Now, after retiring, Michelle decided to join the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers to learn how to become a storyteller, which successfully allowed her to also venture out and form a storytelling group with 3 other tellers that tell with just a bit of a twist.
March Madness. What a theme Dabs could choose. When you think of March Madness, what do you think? Reruns on television? Because basketball marathon. 2 weeks of it, non-stop. But I'm not going to talk about basketball, and I'm not going to talk about television. I'm going to talk about the word madness, in a sense. And madness means a state of mind. What I'm going to tell you today are 2 stories. Are they going to be true, or are they going to be false? Madness. As I tell the stories, I might reveal the end. I just might leave you wondering. First story. Most of us who have jobs and careers want to change after about 15 years because we're sick and tired of the everyday rigmarole. That's all I'm going to call it. And most of us, like me, got into 15 years and decided enough is enough. So what did I do? I decided to go back to school to get another degree. Mind you, I had a job, worked rotating shifts, but for the most part, I worked midnights, 6 days a week. I had 2 kids, little people, husband who worked rotating shifts, pets, and everything else that goes on with life. So I decided, okay, this particular semester I go to school, and I got tired of going to school 2 days a week after working midnights. That was tough. I decided to take classwork and only go 1 day a week. Well, I found the perfect place. But school was on a Saturday, 8 hours. That's the price you pay for going to school for 1 day a week. I decided not to go to my former alma mater because Wayne State was working to death. They didn't care. So I said, well, I'll go to UD because it was a tad easier. So I thought. So I registered for the class, I get my class, and it's an English class because you had to take English after I've been out of school for over 20 years. And what happened? The visiting professor was from Wayne State University. So I knew I am into trouble. But she didn't know me, so maybe I could ease in there. Well, after 20 years, you forget how to do some things. Now, mind you, when I went to school for the second time, computers were just beginning to take off. Most of us had typewriters. You had a manual typewriter. I didn't even have an electric typewriter. But this English class, you had to do a paper every week, a different paper every week. And sometimes she told you what the thing was, sometimes she didn't. But the first paper we did was easy. It was on being a parent. If you're a parent, you have oodles of things to write about. So I wrote my paper, and I typed it, and I showed it to my friends, and they said, this doesn't sound like you. The professor doesn't know you. Don't worry about that. Okay, but this doesn't sound like you. This sounds like an assignment. Duh, it is an assignment. Just tell me, what do you think? It'll pass. That's all I wanted to know. Take my paper, hand it to the professor, smiling. Oh, my paper, first paper in 20 years. It was a little rusty, but I handed it to her. She gave it back the next week. B plus. Yes! And then she says, I want you to do this paper. I'm like, excuse me. I think you can do better. You don't know me. You've never seen me before until this semester. I am not turning my nose up at a B plus paper, trust me. And she said, still think you can do better. She can think whatever she wants to think. I don't care. So I take the paper back. Now, mind you, like I said, we had a paper to do every week. But as I was doing the papers, it started coming back to me because I could write. And I turned in the 8th paper from the 2nd paper. And the 3rd paper, and the 4th paper, on and on and on. And now we're at Thanksgiving break. Still hadn't done that paper. She still gives me a funny look. And I go to bed. Just before we had to do Thanksgiving, I had to prepare the food. I had to do all of this. I go to bed. Now, mind you, I dream in color. I don't dream in black and white. I go to bed, and then in the middle of the night, I wake up screaming because I had a fungus on my face. And the fungus in my mind reminded me of mushrooms. Stems and all hanging over every square inch of my face. I wake up crying, and the kids slept at this house, I don't know, but little people sleep through anything. And my husband, and I tell him, you have to take me to emergency. I have a fungus, and I can't let anybody see me. And you got to do this. And he, like most men, look at their wives, what are you doing? And he just looks. And he says, I'm not taking you anywhere. You should have never said that. I went into orbit. How can I be married to a man that doesn't love me and won't take me to the hospital when I need it and blah, 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 blah. And he said, girl, just go wash your face. So I go in the bathroom and I stomp in the bathroom. I just don't go. I stomp because I'm a rip-roaring man. And I'm washing my face and I'm feeling all this crap on my face. And then I look up. Hey. Turn the light off. Turn the water off. Go in the bedroom. He's looking at me, and my famous word, shut up. I don't want to talk to you. Put my robe on and march my hips down the steps, sit at our dining room table, and started typing that first paper over from scratch. I finished the first paper. I said, okay, this is worthy. Throw the things in the oven that have to be thrown in because I still have to feed these people. It is Thanksgiving by now. And I have all the other things going on. Come back and do the second paper, which was a midterm paper. And anybody who's been to college knows midterm papers are no joke. Half your grade depends on it. And then I typed the midterm paper. Yes. I go back to school that Monday. I gave her the midterm paper first. I said, here's my first paper. And she looks at me, did you fix it or did you do it over? I said, I did this one from scratch. She said, oh. And she said, how you think you did? That's in good paper. She said, I'm the professor. You might be the professor, but that is in good paper. Sit down. And she reads it, and she reads it, and she reads it. No red ink. And I said, oh. She said, now, what made you do this paper over? I said, I had a nightmare. And she said, well, more of my students had nightmares. I'd be the best professor in the world. She said, so what was the nightmare? I said, I had this fungus, and I went through the whole big spiel. And she looks at me, because obviously you can tell I didn't have anything wrong with me. I said, what I was feeling back in the day, we had rollers. They had the little brushes that go in and had a pick to make them stay. Well, the rollers came out. And that's what I was feeling on my face. And she said, that's all it took? I said, yes. And she said, bless you, child. That was it for that. Second story. Okay, long time ago, I was in another organization. And I had to do a 7-minute presentation. And some people do not know they're in this story, but they will by the end of tonight. Pam Jones was my evaluator. Tone was in the group. We had another person named Berlin. She was the treasurer. And we had Miss Williams, who was a member, officer, but I don't remember what. I just know that particular night, she was just a member, witnessing me do my presentation. In the presentation, I told everybody how I felt we could make a name for ourselves by giving a local politician who asked me for money all of our treasury finances. And people turned to look at Tom, and he said, now, mind you, this group, we practice on grammar and all that fundamentals. When he said, I ain't in it, don't look at me, I ain't in it. And that was what he said throughout the whole time, every time somebody looked at him. Berlin had the knack of being able to pick up on something and run with it. And she had no idea what I was talking about, but she knew enough. Oh yeah, this is going good. So she sure did. She told me to get money, and I gave it to her because she said to. And I'm thinking to myself, Berlin, you're gonna get me killed. And she ran with it. Now Williams, who's always quiet, stood up and raised a roof. How could I be such a person? How could I do such a thing? She never wanted to talk to me again. She refused to speak to me, and I better not come in. And she started coming towards me, and I think this one get ready to hurt me. I better wrap this up. And there was a guy that sat there, and he had dreads. And he was getting madder by the second. And the madder he got, I got tickled. And he said, oh, you think this is funny? And I said, the madder you get is just cracking me up. He said, I'll show you funny. And a couple of them said, how will you do this? And I said, believe it, I'm telling you. And so when they looked at Jones, and Jones was sitting there just shaking her head, and now she's laughing. So when I could see that it was getting out of hand, even though we were in a church, I had to finally say, Jones, did I do what I was supposed to do? She said, yeah, you better hurry up because they're getting ready to kill you. What I was supposed to do was tell a story that people would believe. Now, what other story can you tell to get people's attention quick and they would do money? You talk a person you gave away their money without their permission, you can start World War III, 4, 5, 6 in less than 7 minutes. And that's what I did now. Were both of those stories true? Were they false? Madness.
Oui, oui, Patty. Listen. When we and so listen, thank you so much for that, but I'm going back. Now this is for clarification. Williams.
You?
Okay. Okay.
I couldn't tell that because I didn't want you to jump over. Oh, yeah.
And so I got who had the dreads as well, but that was very believable at that time, and took me back. So I thank you for sharing on that. So many memories. We go back a long ways, and it is only fitting that we could also be here in this space to continue to build our craft as well, and that's what DABS do for us. Would you not agree?
I agree.
In fact, when you became a member of DABS, you also excelled along with DABS. Tell us a little bit about that, your confidence level, the
took you to the next phase of storytelling?
Well, people told stories in our family. Men told stories that would hold you to the edge of the seat. Females would tell stories about reality, what happened. And I said, when I retire, I'm going to do that. And then Amy Jackson, she was on me. And I said, okay, Amy, I promise. And I said, okay, and I would listen to people. Now, this is bad. A couple of people told stories. I can do that. I said, let me get up there and go, I can do that. That's nothing. And then there were others who told a story, and I would just be speechless. I said, I want to be like them.
Fantastic. And with that first story you told, okay, true story. I never thought about how people really dream in color or black and white. So I'm thinking, I'm right along with manner and color, from what I can recall.
Yes.
And I guess those who don't have the opportunity to have that color have some type of a sight issue.
Black and white,
Yeah.
Duh. I go all the way.
You go, obviously you do, okay? Get me to the hospital? Yeah, that's all the way. But listen, we want to thank you for sharing. How can someone get a hold of you?
Michelle Peary at gmail.com. That's the new address. They're bringing me from AOL. They said I got to come up with the rest of the world stuff.
And that's where again at?
Peary at AOL.com. But Michelle Peary at gmail.com.
There you have it. So we want to thank you.
Thank you.
For coming out on the scene.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for joining us. And enjoy what we have. Share it with you tomorrow. Michelle Penny. And we have Leah Rich. We're going to keep it going. Before I bring up the next speaker, what I'm going to do is take it back to behind the scenes. We'll be right back. And we're back. Donation. Miss Barnett is our next speaker. And I'm so glad she's on this program. I recall Janice being willing and able to come help me out with the program at one of my employees. And we weren't able to get that program exactly where it should have been to have this powerful speaker present. So now the time has come. And when I say powerful, that's exactly what I mean. Passion, motivated, you name it. You'll hear from another one. And I'm sure you're going to do it. As we wait for her to come aboard, what can I tell you about her other than powerful and passionate? She has a love for the art of storytelling. Miss Janice, women.
Janice Barnett is blessed to be a mother and grandmother. When she is not spoiling her grandbabies or giving care for loved ones, you can find her reading and studying African American history, biographies, and Black folklore. Well, you know, Janice is not just a storyteller. She is a committed Black storyteller that is serious about what it means to seek and share the beauty of Blackness in storytelling, even when it makes us uncomfortable.
This is March, Women's Month. I'd like to dedicate my story not to the women that we celebrate, we read about, we see on television, and are loud and everyday. I really want to dedicate this story to our sisters who are returning citizens coming back into the community and their chance to start over again. All of us is better than the worst thing that we've ever done. It was a fall day, a beautiful, crisp, clean, cool fall day. A day when you might think about going to the cider mill or for a walk in the forest. I wasn't going to do either one of those today. Today I was on my way. I was on my way to Scott Correctional Facility for Women, my first day in prison. I could not think of any pleasant thoughts. I couldn't see out the window and see or take in the scenery. My mind was just racing. My heart was full. I was thinking, how did I come to this point? How did I come to this point in my life? Probably the same that most women there. Money. Money brought me here. But what would help me to survive this experience? We pulled up in front of Scott Correctional on the corner of Beck and Plymouth Roads. A large sign. Farmer Jack never had a sign as large as Scott Correctional had. But did they need that sign? A person that didn't even speak English could look at that 17-foot brick wall with another extension of 2 feet of a razor wall and would know right away what this was. It was a prison. I felt the earth shifting under me as I walked toward the front door. Walked in the door and I knew I had never been any place like this before. I was fingerprinted, my photo taken, a number assigned. I was officially entering prison. Well, we walked over to the sergeant's desk where I found out everything but the clothes on my back were contraband. None of them would be allowed coming into the maximum security prison at Scott Correctional. Walking across the yard, I noticed 80% of the women that I looked at looked just like me. I didn't give them any eye contact because I didn't think this was the environment that you would say, hey, how are you today? We continued on to the clinic where I was introduced as the nurse practitioner coming to join the medical team. The doctor and the physician's assistant politely introduced themselves and said, here, look this binder over, get familiar with it, and we'll talk to you at lunch. It was a 3-inch binder filled with health care of the incarcerated women. Now, I'd been to school. I had my master's in nursing and health care, but there was nothing that I ever learned that was in this book. It was a book of rules and guides of what to do and what you could not do in caring for women who were in prison. Those were the formal rules. I had yet to learn the very critical informal rules that would take to survive my stay at Scott Correctional. I heard many informal rules, and they were really much more important than the formal rules. They were rules that if you forgot them, believe me, you wouldn't forget them a second time. But the top three that everybody had to abide by. Number one, the guard is always right. No matter how outrageously wrong he may appear, the guard is always right. Never speak against the guard. He won't be able to stay there. Number two, don't trust anyone. Never tell anyone what you think. If you hear something, let it stay there. don't let news travel. The third one, and this one was so critical for me, never, I said never forget your badge. You may be able to get into the prison depending on how the sergeant's day was going that day. But believe me, you would play hell getting out. 80% of those women look just like me. With no badge, I was not leaving. And don't let the count be wrong. They count 3 times a day. And the evening count is often off because of people going in and out, going to healthcare appointments and other things. If that count is off, nobody with or without a badge is going anywhere. If you don't have a badge, you're going to be there likely until the end of that shift. Those are 3 rules I never forgot. I remember them to this day, and it's been a while. All of us is better than the worst thing that we've ever done. I learned, people who know such things told me, the first day is the worst day. Not because things get better, but because you callous over those very tender spots and you just learn to survive. The first day was the worst day, but I learned to survive. The first story is about my arrival. The second story I like to call Discovery. During my stay at Scott Correctional, I learned to survive. But there were 2 things that I knew about the penal system. It was not about correcting anyone or even rehabilitating anyone. It was about breaking spirits and denigrating and degrading humanity. There are 2 things that really drove home that is solitary confinement and a body cavity search. Unfortunately, the latter was one that was given to the medical team. But I asked God and all of my ancestors, never give me that job. Never let me have that job. And I did pretty well because my assignment was one of the outer buildings, and mainly they came to the main building for that. So I was pretty much in the clear. But the day came when the physician assistant was sick. She didn't come in. And the doctor told me, he said, I need you to stay up here with me because it's too much for me by myself. I'll need you to stay. Sure, it's fine. I can adapt, I can adjust. Being in prison had taught me a whole lot about that. Here, undoubtedly, I see the sergeant at the door, and he said, we got one for you. And I knew that did not sound like it was going to be a good thing. There was going to be a body cavity search, and the doctor turned to me and said, Janice will tell you. All the wind went out of me. I could feel my heart racing. This was worse than the first day because the first day was ignorance. This, I knew, was going to be the challenge of a lifetime. I had gone into nursing to be a blessing, and this was not what I had gone into nursing for, because this was the ultimate in dehumanizing another human being. I said, I'll be in a moment. I had to gather all of my caring thoughts, all of my wisdom, everything, and believe me, it was draining very quickly. I asked God, help me to go in there. I do not want to be someone who dehumanizes another human being. Do not let this be this experience for either one of us. I walked slowly to the room, and I did something that's unusual. I knocked on the door. You don't knock on doors in prison. You're one of the keepers. You don't knock on doors. No one has any privacy rights. But I knocked on the door. I held her chart in my hand, and I called her by name. I said, Carol, how are you today? And I tried to give her very intense eye contact, very purposeful and intentional eye contact that said, I am not here to dehumanize you. I am here as your sister. She looked past me at the guard behind me who was filming all of this. I tried to get her gaze from the guard and to look at me. Look at me. I am your sister and I am here. I'm going to turn this into a physical exam. I said, you haven't been up for your pap smear or to have your annual done. So we're going to do your annual today. And I never, ever gave notice to the guard behind me. I acted as if that guard was not there. I looked very intentionally at her, and I asked her, I said, I'm going to check your ears. Have you had any problems with your hearing at all? Any itching or burning in your ear? And I showed her the otoscope, and I checked her ears. I checked her ears. I gave her a very thorough oral examination, and I said, you know you have a cavity here. The next time we have the dentist here, I want you to sign up and come up, because let's come up and see about this cavity before it becomes a problem. She was a little confused, but I tried to get her eyes to visual. Look at me. Don't look at the guard behind me. We are going to raise above this experience. You are not in this room anymore. You are with me. I gave her an explanation. I'm going to do your pap smear. You haven't had a pap smear. Normally people don't care about such things in prison, but I made it a point that she was going to have one. I said, it's time for you to think about even a fecal occult stool. I'm going to check the stool here to see if there's any blood in your stool. And I tried with every time that I touched her to have all the caring and interest and support in every way. And when we were done, and 90% of the time when they did body cavity searches, they weren't to find anything so much as they were to let you know we're in control. You have no control over anything. I said, we're all done. The next time you come to clinic, your results should be back for your pap smear and your fecal occult. Be sure and ask about them. And I looked her in the eye and I said, take care of yourself. And I gave her the sign that many times prisoners would give one another when they pass each other. I gave her the chin up, keep your chin up. And I told her, take care of yourself, and I walked out of the room. About 5 minutes later, the same guard who had been videotaping came up to me in my office and he said, you're not going to last here. You coddle convicted felons. I just looked at him and looked away and continued my work. He had said that, as I'm sure, to be an insult to me. I didn't want to tell him that I'd never received a kind of word, and that he gave me the best compliment I had had since I had been at Scott. After I had that experience, I probably stayed for another couple of months, but nothing. After I had endured what I thought was the worst experience at Scott, I figured I can make it now. I can make it. And I stayed 2 months longer. And ever since leaving Scott, I have dedicated myself. It has made me a kinder, warmer person on the outside, knowing how much uncaring there is on the
place inside a 17-foot wall.
Janice.
Hey.
Happy Women's Day indeed. Stories, your style, even though it may make us feel uncomfortable.
I think the truth sometimes does make us uncomfortable, but it's worth it if it causes us to think and maybe make some changes.
To think and make some change. Within, for others on the outside. Compassion, discernment, all the above is what you exemplified during that time when we had that assignment. For such a time as that. I believe in, there's a set time and appointment for it. You were exactly what was needed for that particular moment at that time. And you said you last in that system how much longer?
Oh, I was there about calendar year, a year, but it felt like a lifetime.
And so your next assignment, were you able to, what you did? You were able to take some of the things you were playing from that assignment? Because you said that it made you more understanding, more compassionate. Thank you for that. Because that's exactly what I get from you. Every time I have an encounter with you, and what I was saying earlier is I'm so glad that you're here today because I wanted to you can recall.
Oh, sure.
And we were talking to Giovanni and things, powerful. And at that time, it wasn't you. It was the employer. But I've always admired your work. How did you become a storyteller? What drove you with that passion?
My dad was the best storyteller in the world. My dad was a great storyteller, and I always enjoyed and loved that. And I became a children's librarian at one time. So I was a children's librarian and storytelling, and children's librarians are hand in hand. So I've always enjoyed it. And when I heard about DABS, when it started, I was really very interested. And I am a shy person. I'm a very shy person. But when you got a story to tell, and Toni Morrison said, there's nothing worse than having a story inside that remains untold. I'm not going to die with that on my heart. I'm going to tell my story.
Tell that story. You don't want to choke on your own survival.
I'm not going to choke on my story either.
Okay. Exactly. Now, what would you recommend? The first step for anyone that had the information that they wanted to become a storyteller. What would you advise?
I think we're all storytellers. I really do. It's just some people don't let that, they don't unleash their real story potential, but we're all storytellers. I could see that going to the beauty shop. I've seen it in barber shops. Oh yeah, we're storytellers. It's in our DNA.
Yes, it certainly is. It certainly is. It definitely is in our DNA. And so, if you could, let the folks know.
All right.
How we can, or how they can contact you.
Well, actually, we are in Hannon House, and we do a storytelling workshop here at Hannon House. Hannon House has a storytelling that's called The Storyteller in You. We really, they have many programs, but the program that here that DABS offers is A Storyteller in You. And it gives you a chance to open up, tell the story that's been inside you, rumbling around, and we help you to dress it up and really make that story walk across the stage and switch in style.
There you go. Storytelling in You.
That's what it's called.
Right here at the Hannon Center.
Right here at Hannon.
Which days?
Actually, we're on Mondays, and we have our registration coming up for the spring term in April.
Okay. And so if anyone wants to get a hold of the,
Hannon, it's the HannonCenter.org. HannonCenter.org, and the catalog for the spring term will come up, and the Storyteller and You will be one of the offerings.
ooh, come on now. And so how would someone reach you directly for your?
Oh, if you want to reach me, aim higher. That's A-I-M as in Mary, higher, H-I-G-H-E-R, @gmail.com.
Fantastic. Aim higher. You can't do better than that.
Come on now.
And so I want to thank you for sharing on today, bringing that passion that you always have in telling stories. And in fact, I want to thank each of you all. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic way of celebrating with us on today's Women Month, telling your stories in a way. We want to thank you for having seen through, because that's all we have for you today, folks. So, as we always say, thank you once, thank you twice. And we're going to say, have a real good night. God bless.
Thank you for attending tonight's program presented by the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers. All rights of DAB's Fourth Friday Story Hour is a copyright of the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers and cannot be rebroadcasted or re-recorded without the written permission or consent of the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers, Incorporated. If you missed any of tonight's performance, you can tune into DAB's podcast for a replay on Buzzsprouts or whoever your podcast provider is. Or come here, the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers YouTube page. Subscribe, it's free. If you live in the Detroit area and have an interest in becoming a storyteller, please contact DABS at dabsstorytellers@gmail.com. That's dabsstorytellers@gmail.com, or call 313-442-3227. That's 313-442-3227. If you happen to live outside of the Detroit area and interested in becoming a storyteller, please visit the National Association of Black Storytellers website or call 410-947-1117 or email at questions@nabsinc.org. That's either call 410-947-1117 or email at questions@nabsinc.org. NABS will connect you with a storytelling association in a city near you. Hello, everyone. The Detroit Association of Black Storytellers are so pleased you joined us for March Madness with Youth Director Janice Barnett, amazing storyteller Leah Rich, and Elder Michelle Peary, with your host, Pamela Williams. Join us next month as we bring in April on resilience. We have the Young Elders group on hand. Elder Gwen Lewis, Elder Cheryl Pryor, and Elder Pam Jones, with your host, Pamela Williams, on Friday, April 28th, 2023. Doors open at 6:55. Concert starts at 7 p.m. right here on the Detroit Association YouTube page. Subscribe now. It's free, and you will never miss a program, as you will receive a notification when the program is starting or any other content we post on our page. Or if not, and not able to sit and watch, head over to our podcast, DetroitStorytellers.com, via whoever your podcast provider is. Again, thank you for joining us for March Madness with Youth Director Janice Barnett, amazing storyteller Leah Rich, and Elder Michelle Peary, with your host Pamela Williams. Our music director is Michelle Kenny. Our video director, Brother James Graham. Our production engineer, Jasmine Ross. Our production director, Tone Ross. along with the Hannon Center and the recording studio, in conjunction with the Detroit Association of Black Storytellers. We thank you for attending the Dad's Fourth Friday Story Hour. See everyone Friday, April 28th, 2023 at 7 p.m. for On Resilience. Please be safe. Peace and blessings to you all. Ashe, Asante Sana. Until next time.